Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our training session on using e-grants to get into your ESSER 2 application. My name is Mindy Askelson, and I work here at the OPI in the e-grants section, and I will be working as a program analyst on the ESSER and the EANS grants. We did just hire a new program manager who is coming on board part-time now, but will be coming on board full-time. I think it's next week. His name is Jeff Kirksey. He is from Townsend, a Montana boy, and he's been in Boston the last quite a few years working at a college there and has come back now to work for us at OPI. He will be answering most of the questions that you have as you go through the year about, is this permissible? Is this not permissible? How do I, try to make something permissible? So you'll be working with him and me both as we go forward on this ESSER journey. I am in the middle of taping this presentation. So just so people know that it is being taped, and then this will be posted on the website for anyone to take advantage of. I also have put together a step-by-step guide to getting into the ESSER Consolidated applications, and that should be ready by Monday to also be posted on the So I see for now, wow, we have 76 people online, and I just want to make sure that if you can hear me, could you guys all wave? Oh, good. Hey, oh, good. Jeff's on. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for waving. It's good to see everybody. So Jeff is on the line right now. So Jeff, do you want to unmute yourself and say hello?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Jeff Kirksey. I grew up in Toston, a suburb of Townsend, Montana, and on a farm out there. Have been away from Montana for a while, but I finally found my way back home. And looking forward to working with OPI and with all of you as we work to figure out the best usage of these ESSER and EANS dollars to meet the needs of our students across the state. So while Mindy is going to do a great training for you today, I'm going to learn from her too as we go through this process. But if you have questions, particularly as it relates to kind of what are allowable uses of the funds and things like that, I'm happy to chat with you through any of that. Just to let you know, I'm not on full-time yet, so I'm working part-time. I'll be full-time in person with a phone that you can call me on starting the 1st of June. So, but I'll go ahead and I'll drop my email address in the box too, so that you are welcome to send me an email.
Permissive list of LEA activities. SEAs do not have the authority to limit the uses of ESSER formula funds.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff. As I said too, we're going to ask everyone to mute their mics if they are able to. And the demonstration I'm going to be doing now is putting stuff in live as we go through each of the pages. This training will go on for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then I will leave the room open here and stay online. So if you are working on something and you get caught, please let me know. Now, a little disclaimer for some of you that were into the grant in the last couple of days. We had some technical problems. And as the new person, I will own, one of them was my own. I now have learned a very valuable lesson. Accessing the the ESSER grant has been a little spotty, but we do know that and we're working on that. So please bear with us. Please bear with us as you can. And since Jeff is on the line, Jeff, I'm going to go I'm going to close my camera and share my screen. Would you keep an eye on the chat box?
You bet.
Okay. I will be stopping periodically throughout the presentation, but Jeff will be monitoring if you want to put something in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and just say, hey, stop talking. I have something to ask. And we can do that too. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm going to see if I can get to share my screen good. All righty, so I am going to start sharing my screen. And I am hoping if everyone can see me getting into eGrants. And then I'm in the wrong place. I am in the test database of eGrants. And I know that it's a horrible color green. That is the background, but that's to keep us from mixing up whether we're doing something online or doing something in our sandbox or our test site. So bear with the green. And these will be a made up application as we're going on here. And let's see, I'm going to, I think it was this one. All right, now for those of you that have talked to me prior to today, I talked about that when you go to fill out your ESSER application, that you need to go to fiscal year 2020. That has changed. And that was one of the other issues that we had to fix. And the reason that's changed is because of getting the indirect cost allocations in there. We had to move the application back to 2021. And if you go near the available grants near the bottom here, you'll be able to hit the create button. If you've already gone in and created your application, that button will be labeled open as opposed to create. So I am going to start out with each page and then explain how to fill each page out. The first thing that I want to show you is that this application is not like last year's application, and it's more like the IDEA or the ESEA application, because now over here you'll see we have 5 programs that come under ESSER Consolidated. And the reason we have that is in the new regulations that the feds have sent out, they've listed the information that they want from each pot of money that they gave us. When ESSER comes to us, it's not one big, huge whole pot of money. It's a bunch of other pots all mingled together. And then, you know, each pot has its own little quirks that you have to deal with. So for those of you for this year, for ESSER 2, everyone will be getting an ESSER base amount. Some people will be getting a school district supplemental, and then some will be getting special needs. Now, the reason that not everyone is getting the school district supplemental is because we have used those dollars to get some of our schools up to $20,000, $30,000. So that's where we focused a lot of that money. The special needs down here, that was a pick from the legislature. You remember, as we were trying to get everything online, I kept saying, I can't put it online. They haven't signed the bills yet. And what had happened is the legislature, as they were giving us permission to spend this money, they went in and made some changes saying that according to what they would like, this is how we should spend this ESSER money. This special needs account is one that they are giving monies out to instead of the inflationary costs that you get at the beginning of every year in your SPED and special needs. Instead of getting that inflationary cost, you'll get that in your special needs in your ESSER grant. I know it's a little confusing, but we will try and keep you steady and on the right track. ESSER base and ESSER district supplemental are can be spent the same exact ways. There's no non-permissibles in one that's not in the other. It is basically your same base rate, just divided into two funding streams. And that'll come up in a minute here. So looking at the first page here, this talks about what the grant is and some of the rules. And one of the things it talks about is that all the funds coming out of ESSER 2 have to be obligated by September 30th, 2023. And they need to be spent by November 10th, 2023. And I know this was a little confusing for some of the schools that we did our last training with, but what you need to remember is you're all getting some more money in ESSER 3 that will probably be out the end of May, beginning of June. So we need you to come to an agreement with your school on ideas of how you're going to spend the money in ESSER 2, knowing that we're not giving you a long period of time and that you will be able to go back and do amendments as needed. So I want you to keep that in mind. And then also too, with this ESSER money, we have been getting new updates and regulations every day that conflict each other, and guidance that doesn't read the same as law, and that kind of stuff. So as we're puzzling through this, you may feel like you're getting some mixed messages from us, and we're going to try to be very clear and succinct and speak with one voice. But do know that every day we have gotten an update on a regulation or a guidance that has tweaked the grant a little more. So on this first page, it gives you all the information you need to know about the law and the rule. And then down here, for anything that we have cited, or when we cite a guidance, you'll be able to find that in these hyperlinks down here. You'll be able to see the law. You'll be able to see all the regulations from Department of Education. And there's a frequently asked questions, which those are my favorites to go to, because they're pretty specific, and you go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So that is one place that you can start. Now, this next tab is where we get into the ESSER Consolidated application. So the ESSER Consolidated application is just like your ESEA application, where this part is the shell of the grant, where you put the allocations, you talk about details, you sign your assurances, and then you do your submit. The budget pages are listed by the programs that we have down here. And I will show you that as we're filling this out. So this is the consolidated original application contact page. This page, the boxes that are grayed out, those are the ones that will auto load when the grant opens up. Now, I know there have been several schools that have called me and said, what do I do if I don't have the same AR anymore? If you can see right here in this, by the first asterisk, there is another blue hyperlink, and it's the contacts information. And if you have to make any changes to the contacts on your grant, that is the place that you'll go. And then we update it on Thursdays. So when you send it to us, it will be updated the following Thursday. If you find yourself not able to see the change, or the change doesn't get there, give us a call and we will work on it, because it means that we'll have to do something else from here. And I have to be real honest, this thing is like, it works one day and then it'll work and then not work and then work again. So, don't feel bad about, calling and following up and say, hey, did you get this change? Now, we also have something new on this page, and that is the DUNS number. This number is important because we have to report back to the feds by school. And that's what, and the feds are using your school DUNS number to file the information away. Your DUNS number will be the same of all your different grants. It's your business ID number. Neither Jeff nor I have permission to give out DUNS numbers, and that has to do with security reasons. So if you do not know your DUNS number, one of the people I suggest you contact is your auditor, because they're probably going to know that DUNS number, or the business clerk, they know it. So on this page, you see we have all this information that has been self-filled. What you'll notice, though, is there's 2 asterisks right here. And those asterisks mean that if you don't fill in the information, it will not let you save. So you need to make sure that you fill in all the information. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. For when I go to hit, I've taken that number out, I go to hit save page, and I get these red messages. It tells me everything I did wrong. So the first thing it says, you must complete the DUNS number. So that is a 9-digit number that you'll put in there. And then I'll need to finish up everything that has a star. Now, sometimes your program manager is not your authorized rep, and that's okay, because if they are not your authorized rep, you just check that box and complete all this information. And then if they are your authorized rep, you don't need to do anything about that. Another thing that we have down here is we have asked for additional people that we can email so that we can ask questions if we need to, especially, after the end of the school year and summer comes back and there's a lot of shuffling of staff between schools. And so someone who has been our alternate contact may have gone to another school now. And I don't want to keep sending your grant information to somebody to another school. So that's why we're asking you to keep that updated. As you'll see here, very simple. After I fill in that information, I'm going to save the page. I'm going to talk about the allocations and then I'll stop for some questions. So with the allocation tab, you will see in here, there are the 5 programs that we talked about. And right now, this school's funding stream has 18,247 from the base, and then 10,000 from the district supplemental. So that's a real good example of what we're using that for. These guys didn't hit $20,000 due to their enrollment. So we added from this account another 10,000 so that we could get everyone up to the minimum of about 26,000. So that's why that is in there. This other educational institutes are 3 schools that we are including in this ESSER money, and that is the Montana School for the Deaf and Blind, Pine Hills in Miles City, the juvenile detention facility there, and the Department of Military Youth Challenge Program. So those are the three that will be getting other educational monies in this one. Some of you, as I said before, may get special needs. This school district targeted, don't worry about that. That is not necessary until we get to ESSER 3. Originally, we were going to build this application, so you just had to renew it to do ESSER 3, but then the feds changed the entire program on us. So we have to come up with a new application, and that's what'll be, that's what you'll use for ESSER 3. So I'm going to stop here for a second and see if there's any questions, or if Jeff, you see anything in the box that I can answer. Nothing in the box, okay?
Nothing in the chat, not yet.
Okay. Do we have any questioners? Or am I safe to say I'm doing a great job and you're all understanding it?
Mindy, this is Joanne Schrupp in Pulse Strip. I just have a quick question.
Okay.
Since it's consolidated and I have an elementary district and a high school district, my elementary is the primary in my ESEA and my IDEA. I'm assuming that's what I'm going to do for ESSER, so I use my elementary DUNS number.
That's exactly the right, yes, that is true.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that's the part that I messed up. I didn't realize that I had to tell the computer to combine those two, the high schools and the elementaries, but that's exactly how it would work, yes.
Similar question in the chat from Mike Waterman.
Hi, Mike, glad to have you on. Okay. For the multiple district file upload just went on this morning. So if you were in here yesterday or the day before, your schools will not be combined, but as you go in today, your schools will now be combined. So I'm going to show you program details here. On this page, allowable uses, this is what we took directly from the guidances. And we get a lot of questions about, well, we have this money, can we fix this, this, and this? And use the COVID money for it. And as much as I would love to say, do everything you can with this COVID money to do your deferred maintenance, we're just not able to say that. So after reading these permissible activities, there's 3 words I want you to keep in mind: prevent, prepare, and respond. What that means is, does the program or the avenue that you want to spend your money on prevent, prepare, or respond to COVID? And when we ask you that question, there's always lots of, well, I can look at it this way, and well, I can look at it this way. And what we'll do is give you our best guess, from how we interpreted things. But ultimately, if you really think that we're wrong, that is okay. All you have to do is write it up, tell us how it either prevents, prepares, or responds, and we'll kick it up to the feds and ask them to get their ruling on that. So we've been wrong before. So
Yeah. And I'll actually be the one that is reviewing most of your requests. And so if there is any question I have on a budget item, I'll note that in eGrants for you to see. If it's a question that I don't feel quite meets the standard, I will reject you. That doesn't mean you're done. That just means I want you to look at my comments and then let's have a conversation. Because we want to be able to get you to yes on your grant request. And so, but we do have specific requirements that the federal government is asking us to meet. At the end of the day, you will be the one that is audited and answerable for these dollars. So we want to make sure that we're giving you good counsel in that process. So So feel free. So if I happen to reject an application, don't mean that that does not mean you're out and down out for the count. Okay, that means that we need to have maybe a follow-up conversation about the allowability of what you're requesting. So, but happy to have that conversation with you. And you are certainly welcome to reach out to me in advance too. If you're kind of grappling with, I'm not sure if this is allowable or not, give me a call, shoot me an email, and we can have that conversation in advance. So, Mindy, there's a couple things in the chat. I don't know if you want to hit some of those now that are coming up.
Let's hear a question.
Sure. So I think this is a good one as we're talking about these 3 waves of ESSER funding. Will there be 2 different ESSERs in e-grants for ESSER 2 and 3, or is the consolidated grant combining the 2 funds?
There'll be 2 separate grants.
Yep.
We have found out the hard way that the changes of what the feds want is so totally in the opposite direction of what ESSER 2 is that we have to go out and build a new application.
Yeah. ESSER 3 is really different. In fact, like that allocation hasn't been made. The state is actually in the process right now of submitting our application. We have to apply for those funds before and be granted approval before we turn around and open up those applications for you. You did get an email from the superintendent earlier this week opening up that process for public comment, and we would really value your feedback. There's a survey attached there that you can take. If you have comments that aren't specifically that you don't feel are captured in the survey, you're certainly welcome to send me an email, and I will make sure that that gets to the appropriate source so it can be counted in the comments record as well. All right, Mindy, you can drive again for a while.
Okay, back to driving. So you'll see here, as I said, these are all the permissible activities. And what I wanted to say too is, don't feel bad calling or emailing us multiple times about this. We are totally okay with that. We know that it's going to be hard to spend this money appropriately, and we want to help you be able to spend it appropriately. So you're not bothering us with too many questions. It's just fine. The next tab that I want to show here is the Assurances tab. Now, this in the prior ESSER grant and with most other grants, we always say that for anything over $5,000, you need to get permission from, and it was Ken Bailey, to do those over $5,000 projects. This ESSER 2 application is set up differently. And the reason it's set up differently is because there's going to be so many projects that are going to be over $5,000 that we wouldn't have time to review and approve all of that. So what we are doing is right here in the first set of assurances, we're saying to you, when you get a grant from the feds, there's these primary assurances that you have to give us. And that's what we have here under the general assurances. Now with these assurances, what you'll notice is there's a date that it was agreed on, and the way that you agree on it is by checking the box that is here. So going down here, and then what I'll do is here, and I'll check the box. The Esser Assurance tab is a little different. And this one is straight from the regulations of what it has to be, the ESSER funds have to be used for. And then this is also the place, and back here, common assurances, where they cite different rules and regulations that you have to follow if you're doing capital projects or purchasing equipment over $5,000 or, you know, any construction. And they refer to the laws, you know, down in each one of these sections here. Just so you know, Jeff, I don't know if you know this yet. There's a Brewman conference coming up on construction and those sort of costs that we're going to be attending. That'll help us. The feds have also put some stuff together about what you need to know to do these capital projects. And as we get that information, we will forward that out to you. And then, so then I'm going to check my box. I agree. And I'm going to say, yes, I agree. I'm going to go to the GEPA assurances. This is the same assurance that you had to sign for ESSER 1. And where a lot of people ran into trouble with submitting their application is they didn't fill out the box here. So in here, they ask you to provide a description of the steps which will be taken to ensure access to, and then it gives all the special groups and stuff like that. So we're asking you to give us a short paragraph about how you plan to make sure that all your special needs and special population students are able to get some of help that is coming from this grant. So for this page, what I need to do is I need to check this box. I need to put something in there. And then again, I go down to LEA agrees. And the reason that is important that you do all three of those is because when you get to the final assurances, this is where the program lets you be able to put in budgets and stuff like that. You have to make sure that all three of these are checked. They'll be auto-populated as you complete them on the individual page. Then you'll have to put your date in here that you agreed to. And then you hit legal entity agrees. Now that will be important when we come to the submit button, but we don't have to worry about that right now. We got a lot of other buttons we got to deal with. So once we've finished checking the contact information, make sure the allocations are in there. This program detail had the permissible activities and the assurances that we have to check. Now what we'll do, is there a question? Okay, so now what we'll do is go to the ESSER base. Like I said, everyone will have gotten money allocated from the ESSER base. And this is completed just like the ESSER 1 was, with a couple of exceptions. The first thing is, because of what is permissible and allowable in ESSER, we changed the description of the purpose categories and object codes to match those allowable course. And it is different than if you filled out any of the other grants. It's specific for this grant. So what I strongly suggest you do is click on that and then download it if you need it. So it can help refer you to where you need to be in your budget codes and categories. This is so important that we get this straight, which is why we added a third column, because the feds asked us questions specifically about how much money did we spend in, for instance, supplies that were Mhm.
Yeah. Gotta make those guys mad.
So what that will do is, I'll give you an example of how it works
Do
here.
an activation.
So first of all, we have personal salaries,
Okay.
okay, 100. And the reason we have them is for, and I'm going to do
You don't know.
support services. If you have your mics on, could you please mute them? We're having some background conversation. Thank you. So I'm going to pick support services. And then with my use of the funds, these categories are the one that the feds want us to report dollar amounts in when we give them our annual report. So for this, I am hiring someone to a para to work with the students. Okay, hire 2 paras to work with students not at grade level. And then I would put the amount that I'm going to spend in here. All right. If I put in a 100 for personal services, my next line has to be a 200 that talks about the benefits. So it'll be all the same as above here, but over here I'll say taxes and benefits. And then I will put that amount here. Now, what I want to show you is some of the other options that you can pick from. And the reason we are showing you this specifically is because this is where we had a lot of issues and problems. So let's say, for instance, I decided that I want to buy a floor cleaner that will do a better job of disinfecting the school. Now, floor cleaners are over $5,000. Anything that's property or equipment over $5,000, I will put under 700 here. And then I'm going to use it for facilities. And the reason I'm getting it is to minimize spread of infection. And then I'll put here floor cleaning machine. And you would go all the way down until
Stay in line, okay?
your allocation
Thanks, sweetheart. I love you.
meets
Hi,
your
guys.
meets the what you put down.
Hello.
So for instance, this
Hi,
would be $1,100. And so I'm going to put here 700, I hope I got this right, 7,247. And I will hit my calculate totals. You'll see how it calculated it for me. And then I would hit save page. And so what this is telling me is I have budgeted my entire account here, and there's no remaining money. Now, for those of you that are applying and getting indirect costs, the indirect costs will be uploaded into your grant in the next couple of weeks. We have not, people are still applying, and we have not gotten all those processed. Once we do, we will upload the indirect costs into the page, and then you'll be able to work with that. So I'm going to stop here for a minute and see if we have any questions, either online or through the message board.
Hey, Mindy, could you, a question is, where do we go to get the Optic code? Could you review that one more time?
Yep. What you do to get the object code is on the budget detail page, there is a hyperlink that says description, purpose, categories, and object codes. You'll just click on that and that will come up.
Great. Thanks, Mindy.
All right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. Now you look across top here. This is what you can go to see where you stand every time you come into your grant. This is what you budgeted down here, and then this will be how much you spent or have requested cash refunds for. I want to also let you know that if you're having trouble getting this page to save, it most likely has something to do with the way you're adding up your categories, and work on it. And if you get frustrated, give me a call. I can usually go in and figure out what you need to change, and then we can get it fixed. So now the next page in this group is the budget summary. And that's just giving you a quick overview of how you spent your money. And you'll see we spent all of ours we spent 11 in support services, and we're doing for supplemental learning. And then we will, down here, we spent it to minimize the threat of infection. And we have that here. The reason that is going to be important is in ESSER 3, there is a mandate that you have to spend 20% of your funds to address the loss of instructional time. And we know that a lot of you didn't lose any instructional time because you guys stayed open most of the time, if not all. We are getting some direction from upstairs about how to fill that out and what we should say and what we should respond to. And as soon as we get that information, we will hand it out. So I see you grinning, Jeff. Is there a good question in there?
No, upstairs is the superintendent's office, just so
Yeah.
people know.
Well, he's a big wig. He's upstairs too. So, so that's, we'll give you just a real quick overview. It'll also tell you the percentage of your money you spent, which is why will be important when you're playing around with your budget for ESSER 3.
Mhm.
Now, if you remember, we decided that we're going to buy a floor cleaning machine. And so what happens is, since it was over $5,000, this item that we listed here is automatically transferred to that box there. And what that box there is asking you to do is fill in the description of the item again, the quantity that you have got, and how much it costs. 247. Okay. And I'm going to save the page. Now, the reason, oh, that didn't work, did it? We'll do 1. And then up here, we'll do 7247. All right. Save the page. And you'll see how it totals it out for you. If you have something in this box up here and you forget to stop at this page, when you go to submit your application, will go, I know you can't do that. You need to finish that up. So now this issue has been under a lot of contention lately about who owns the equipment when it's bought with ESSER funds. And we're still struggling with that. But what I am going to say is we're going to ask you on your cash request, if let's say you put in a floor cleaner and you're asking for your reimbursement of it, one of the questions you're going to get on that cash request is, what is the disposition of these materials or items? Do you want to keep them? or do you want to give them back to us? So so that is a question that we will go through several times with you, just to make sure. I have some real doubt if Jeff is going to drive all over Montana to collect Chromebooks and iPads and desks and chairs. So, but we do, it's a nice way to see the country, you know, but, you know, take a U-Haul with you and bring it all back. But we're, you know, we don't want to do that. We want to try and get everything to stay with the schools that bought them. So I think our public schools are going to be pretty safe keeping all the equipment, because in reality, you know, we do own it. So I showed you this. There was one other thing that I want to show you. I want to go back here to filling out the object codes here. If you are doing a major project, or you're spending $40,000 on supplies, the supplies that you're spending them on are Chromebooks for everybody. What you will need to do is, when you get those Chromebooks and any other,
You have to do it today.
No,
When's the
Um,
latest?
any other things that you purchase with this money that can be reused,
Yes.
you need to make sure
today.
that you have a
No, I'll do
inventory
one.
list
Can-
about what
I
the
can
item is,
be
what the
just
serial
curious.
number is,
This
where
costs
it is located, and
I
who
just
has
do
it.
my hair up, so I'm like, okay.
There's somebody talking in the
Yeah, I'll be
background.
more at the track meet.
Could you
all day.
please
So
mute your mic?
we have a picture, but it's like.
So, all right, so
Hey, Kim,
we'll have that.
Yeah.
Kim,
Why don't you come back and like, we come back?
I wanna
in
say one thing,
15,
Jeff.
20 minutes?
hey, Kim Ramori, just
Sounds
if
good.
you
Okay,
can hear
thank
me.
you so much, Ashlyn.
Hey, Kim Ramori, there, thank you. Your mic was live. So
We now know your bank account number. No.
no. But we're excited about the track meet too.
Yes, we are. Go team. And no masks.
Thanks.
So anyway,
Thanks for being a good sport, Kim.
so if there's a project, a construction project, or something, or your HVAC system project, you'll need to put a little more detail in this section here. I had one soup ask me, well, if I'm making a case for purchasing something that, you know, you're not too sure is COVID, do I put my reasons in here? And the answer is yes. Because the only way Jeff's going to have to decide whether the request you have is appropriate is by the information in here. Now, this is just an aside. When the last ESSER grant, you know, we had to get it out so fast and no one knew what the heck to do with it, that we accepted grants that were pretty broad, like supplies, $47,000. Equipment, $10,000. We're not gonna be able to do that this time. We need to know what you're spending your money on, and why you're spending your money on that. So for instance, if part of that $47,000 for supplies is Chromebooks, tell us that. 200 Chromebooks are going to cost us $40,000, and they're going to be used for students to take home and work with. So don't be surprised if some of you get your applications sent back just to put in a little more detail.
Mhm.
Because when your auditor comes and talks to you, you know exactly what you did. When the federal auditor comes and talks to us, we have to sort of know exactly what you did. And we have to be able to produce the paperwork to tell us why we approve that. So please keep that in mind. The last of the four here is the page control. as you'll see right now, everything is open because we haven't submitted anything. But when you go back and do the amendment, this is where people are going to have the biggest problem with. Either the ESSER base or the school district supplemental may be locked from being submitted. So make sure when you go in to do your amendments that you unlock all the pages that are there. So I'm going to go now to the ESSER, the school district supplement. You'll see that it's just the same as the other one was, and that we need to fill it out just the same way. And I'll do that real quickly so we can get on to this other part. And we're going to get supplies, and it's going to be for instruction, and it's going to be technology, and I'm going to put Chromebooks and math workbooks. A lot of schools are purchasing additional textbooks and workbooks, so the students no longer have to share with the social distancing, and that is totally appropriate for using ESSER money on. What you have to remember though is any of these items that can be returned need to have a label on it saying it was bought with ESSER funds and needs to be on an inventory sheet. So that's, you need to keep that in mind. So I'm going to put 10,000 here. I'm going to calculate. Yay, no messages. I'm going to hit the save, and I have no messages. If I had money in my special needs, I would do the same thing. I'm going to stop here and see what other questions you might have.
I mean, there was one question about labeling. I think you just reiterated that. Another question is for major purchases like window, door replacement. When is the deadline to have the project plan in?
Oh, I was waiting for that question to come up. So, when you go in to start your grant, it says the deadline to apply is 6/30/21. And the reason that's in there is because we have to put an end date in order to make e-grants work. It can't just be on, all the time. That is a soft, very, very soft, very dissolvable, wash away deadline. And if you need more time, that is fine. You have two ways you can do it. You can wait and put, the application together later on, knowing that you can't spend any money out of it until we have the application, or you can do a best guess of what you think and then go back in and make amendments. Yep, either way will work fine with us. So the date is dependent on when you want to do it. What I will tell you is if you don't have your ESSER 2 application in, you're not going to be able to apply for ESSER 3. So you need to complete this application first before you complete ESSER 3. And I have no dates on that right now. None of that has come out.
None of us do. Yeah.
It's a mystery.
Could you repeat what you shared about purchasing books?
Okay, if a lot of schools are purchasing additional textbooks and workbooks, so the students have something to take home and they don't have to share with a partner in the class, that is totally appropriate, allowable expense under ESSER 2. What we do ask is that you keep an inventory list as well as put a label on the book that it was bought with ESSER money.
Yeah, that kind of goes along with Chuck's question a little bit, though a little bit different. Would it be appropriate to purchase a new curriculum product for reading and or math to better meet the needs of our students?
Do you want to take that one, Jeff?
I'll take a stab at it, Mindy, and then and then you can correct me or back me up. One of the things that is really, there's really an initial standard that has to be met for ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 dollars. And it goes back to what Mindy said It either has to be directly tied to preparing for, responding to, or what am I getting?
Preventing.
Or
Prevent.
preventing the coronavirus. So, remember, as you're applying for these dollars, they really need to connect back to the coronavirus. If you want new curriculum, just wanting new curriculum doesn't meet the standard. If you need to purchase new curriculum or add new technology in order to respond to the impact of COVID to your school process, they do leave a little bit of room for what they call it's a continuity of education services. So so if you can make the connection to new curriculum, is you're needing that because of how COVID has impacted your seat time in classes, and you need to get new curriculum out to students in a different way in order to kind of maintain the continuity of learning, then yes, that would meet the standard. But it's going to be different when we go ESSER 3. We're still waiting for the federal guidance on that, but the initial guidance actually doesn't specifically name COVID. It's really focused a lot more on loss of seat time and loss of instructional hours. So in-person instructional hours. So and just different supports that students might need. So hope that helps.
So Jeff, this is Randy. Can I ask a follow-up question with
Sure.
what you just said? And maybe this is for Mindy.
Okay.
So this is a struggle, I think, for all of us, because we're being told, that these things have to be approved. We're trying to move forward right now with our budget and with summer projects and things like that. Certainly curriculum, as you articulated, I think fits in a lot of ways. But isn't it also true that I lost 76 kids this year to homeschool because of directly related to COVID? So is it not also true that I can use money, some of these monies that I've, it's not to supplant, but it's to help replace. So if I've lost 76, which is, to the tune of almost $500,000, can't I use some of this money, even though it may not fit, specifically to what you're saying? And then that's my first question. My other question is, we have to move forward now and get these things ordered. So what's going to happen if we do get denied? And maybe you already answered this, and I apologize, I got in a little late, but what's going to happen if we order something, and let's say it's a text, a bunch of textbooks, or let's say it's something with our HVAC system, and we go out and spend $30,000 on it, and then you don't approve it? Where are we at then?
Yeah.
Jeff, can I take that one?
Go for it, Mindy.
Okay. So to your first question, all right, ESSER 1 made this out very clearly, and this message carries over to ESSER 2. If you need to use COVID funds in order to maintain full staff, pay staff to stay on your payrolls, even though they're not working, or to make up for a tax-based decrease, you can use COVID for that to help you in your regular budget.
That's COVID impact.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, you can. The second question for that is, Jeff's going to start looking at these apps like as soon as they come in, or as soon as I show him how to look at the apps, and they come in.
Yeah.
And what will happen is, if there is a pretty big project in there, and there's something not right, or you're just not, I'm going to speak for Jeff, even though I shouldn't. I'm sure Jeff is going to call you and say to you, okay, I don't think we can do this, or maybe if you rewrite it to say this.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, yes, you can make up general base tax fund with that COVID money, and we're going to be doing a quick turnaround on these applications.
Yeah.
So if you need to get something done and we haven't gotten to your application yet, drop Jeff a note and let him know that, you know, in order to get on, I'm trying to get a deck built onto my house, and I'm, you know, they can't even order the materials yet. So, you know, but I had to put a deposit in and let him know I was going to do it. You know, if you have to do that and need to expend money right away, talk with Jeff and he'll work with you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. Great question, Randy. Like, and we are interpreting Fed guidance right alongside with you. So we will do our best to get you as quick of an answer as possible. And if it's, you know, if it's an answer that we can't easily, if we feel like we can address, we'll run it up the flagpole. We've got folks at the Department of Ed that we are in regular contact with, trying to get clarity, as are all of the states across the country. But yeah, good question.
I got a quick question to this Cal Ketchum at West Valley School. So in order to save time, because you guys are going to be inundated with a whole bunch of things to look at here, I'm assuming real soon if you don't already have some. And so can we develop some sort of rubric as to what a good example would look like? And I know there's going to be multiple things, you know, multiple different things out there, but something that at least contain this, and this. That way we might save time in the future. I know they're going to be different. There's going to be 1,000 different things, but at least some sort of idea of what it might look like.
Yeah. You know, we're talking about that right now, Cal, and thanks for asking that question. I think one of the challenges, and to speak to kind of a comment that Laurent made earlier on in the chat, is like, we can't actually tell you what you can and can't spend your funds on. And so, so we are guiding you through federal guidance. And so, so we have to be careful about what we articulate as like, oh, you could do X, Y, or Z. But that might be a way to get at it, Cal, if we can come up with more of a rubric. I mean, I think the best rubric that we have right now is on our website. If you go to school finance, or if you just go to Esser, right off the main page, it's like 2 links under Elsie's picture. And then that will actually get you to the guide for Esser 2, and how it spells out allowable uses. So yep, Mindy's doing it right there, so you can follow along. So under guidance, and then the very last one there is Sr2 Grant Guidelines, and that's our attempt to to distill down the federal legislation and the federal guidance from the Department of Ed a little more specifically. So as you're thinking through kind of your needs, what would be helpful to do is kind of look through this document and see like, oh, I think it falls under this category. But remember, that first one has to be either be responding to coronavirus, preventing, or preparing for. So that's the first question you have to ask. Is it doing one of these 3 things? Is it helping prevent COVID-19? Is it helping us prepare for maybe another outbreak? Is it part of our response? Are we responding to an impact that COVID had on our schools? So that's kind of your first measure, kind of the first broad category of the rubric. And then you would go into all of these kind of subcategories. And it does, I mean, the mention, I think someone else mentioned in comment the questions about mental health supports. And that is actually specifically identified, providing mental health services and supports. So, you know, I'm thinking, I had an email conversation with the superintendent earlier where because their numbers had dropped in the district, they were going to have to take a school counselor down from full-time to part-time. So back to Mindy's earlier point, well, the reason they were having to dial back that role was because of lack of funds coming in because of the impact of COVID. And then they that was also going to hurt their ability to provide mental health support services to their students. And so then we've met the COVID qualifier, and then we've also met one of the additional allowables.
Mental health services.
Yeah, mental health services. Yep. But we can look to see if there's a different way of presenting that, Cal. The Fed is very much building the ship as it sets sail, and we're doing the same thing. It's just like you all are, and so we're in this together. So anything that you think would be helpful from us, we want to hear from you and know what that is. So
I want to give you an example that I had with one of my with a question I had with the superintendent. He said to me, we need to get some new carpeting. And I'm like, okay, I don't see how that fits under COVID. And he said to me, well, we went to decontaminate with a heavy duty rug cleaner and the rug disintegrated. I went, yep, that's going to fit COVID, because you have to clean the carpets in order to keep everything clean. And if your carpets are so old that they disintegrate when you have to clean them, that's a good reason to use COVID money to get new rugs. Now, another person asked me, well, I want to redo the gym floor. And I said, what's the reason for that? And the reason for redoing the gym floor is because it needs it. And I said, yes, I understand it's deferred maintenance, but does it prevent, prepare, or respond to COVID? And then he said, well, I had to make it a classroom because of social distancing. Well, sounds like COVID to me, So there are ways of, looking at things and wording things that Jeff and I will gladly help you with when it comes for asking.
Yep.
Do you have any more questions for that?
There is a question from Joe Steele in the chat, and Joe asks, do items under ESSEA, ESSEA, yes, Title I Perkins Adult, and also, oops, sorry, it moved, also have to be justified under prepare for, prevent, or respond to coronavirus?
The answer to that is yes, sir.
Yes.
You have to do it twice. So for an example, in whatever it is, when you can do teacher incentives, whether it's bonuses or, paying college loans or what. And so I had a soup ask me, all right, so under Title I can pay teacher incentives. Can I use ESSER money for purchasing or paying for housing? So the first question was, does Title I or II, I forget which one it is, allow you to pay for housing as part of their grant? And the answer to that was no, housing isn't included. We can give them a retention bonus and have them use it on whatever we want, but we can't give them the money for housing. So then we didn't even have to ask the second question about COVID. But let's go back and you say, well, we want to give a hazard pay bonus to our faculty that worked one-on-one with students in the shop with Perkins. Can we give them a COVID bonus? COVID bonuses are not allowed, nor is hazard pay. What is allowed is pay for additional time and effort the faculty have spent having to do online, offline, and dealing with all the other COVID issues. I am sure every one of you can document
Mhm.
how much extra time each position is having to do now because of COVID.
Yeah.
That is a good reason then for us saying yes.
Yeah, that's key what you just said though, Mindy, though. You have to be able to document extra time. Because then again, you have to remember the feds will come back and audit this. And so you can't just do, everybody's worked harder. Everybody's on average put in this many hours. We want to compensate our folks this way. You can't be that loose with it. You have to kind of identify they're working these many additional hours and we've documented that and we're paying for that. So
I had to pull a document up that he did to his board, and basically what he did is they were giving all their staff and faculty additional funds because on the average, each staff and faculty were there or had to spend an additional 3.5 hours a week doing this, and this.
Mhm.
And that's a nice, clean cut, great documentation. You told us what they had to do, why they had to do it, and how much they had to do.
Yeah.
So, it can be sort of broad, but you
Mhm.
still need to hit all the bases.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that answers your question, Joanne. Like, it just needs to be specifically identified. So yes, teachers are salaried, but like, how many extra hours are they doing? And those extra hours, like specifically, how do those extra hours relate to first to prevent, prepare, respond to coronavirus, and then really that's what they're doing is facilitating like continuity of education and learning. So so you just need to be able to articulate what that is. We're not, it doesn't have to be as detailed as a time card. If you can do that, that's great documentation, but most of us probably can't, right? Because but if you can capture kind of how your teams are using their time and how that relates to the ESSER funds, then yes, that would be allowable. Hey, a question came in on the chat. Just curious, if you use ESSER funds for the gym floor or carpet, how do you return that?
That was our question too,
Yeah.
to the feds.
Yeah.
And that's when they said that you'll be asked if you want to keep those items and materials once the emergency has ended.
Yeah.
And that's an easy one. Yeah, I want to keep them.
Yeah.
If the schools tell us that they want to keep something, we can do that easily. It's when we get into the private schools and homeschool that we have a hard time, allowing them to keep stuff.
Yeah.
But anything with federal monies for our schools, we're not going to take away. Anything else in there?
There's a question, kind of Joanne's second part to her question. Can we utilize emails as documentation? I had teachers logging in and communicating with students before 6 a.m. I don't, you certainly could use that. I think probably a better way to do that is that you as the administrator actually write that up, that this is the activity that teachers are doing. Our regular school day starts at this time. They're consistently logging in at this time to make sure all students are connected. And those are additional hours. I think you could go more broadly than actually having the emails showing that your teachers were on at that time. Do you think that's right, Mindy?
I think that's right. And if it's something that if the auditor says,
right,
can you give me an example? You're able to pull an example.
Yep. Yep.
Any more?
I think, let me just scroll through the chat here, but Mindy, would you talk a little bit more about like school districts that contain a high school and an elementary school? I just want to make sure we're clear on that process, that application process.
If in your district, your elementary school is the fiduciary agent or the fiscal agent for the high school or vice versa, what will happen is the money that is supposed to be the money given to the high schools is automatically transferred over to the elementary school so that they can do all the bookkeeping, etc. Let me see if I can. Yeah. So if your elementary school or the high school is the normal fiscal agent for the rest of the schools, that's how your allotment allocations will be listed in the grant.
Yep.
So if the elementary is the fiscal and the high school wants to purchase 60 Chromebooks, the elementary school, like they normally would do anyway, would do the ordering and purchasing.
Yeah. So then it should be included in your elementary application if you're going to be.
And that's a good point, Jeff. Only the elementary will do an application. Right. Only the fiscal agent does the application.
Right.
Well, I am going to show you this last part. And so remember, we went through, we completed in the consolidated, the contact, the allocation, the allowable expenditures, and the assurances. Then we went to each one of the sub-programs in which we were allotted money, and we completed those pages. So once that is done now, I'm going to go back to the ESSER Consolidated, and I am going to go to the Submit button. Now, I've been noticing, I've been getting flashing emails that there's some issues, I think, with submitting these forms. So for those of you that have been messaging me, I see the messages and we're working on it. So when you get to the end here, what you're going to do is first do a consistency check. The consistency check runs, and then it says to me, oh, I can't do this. And the reason I can't do it is we're missing in the student learning question 1 or 2, we're missing information there, but everything else passed. So what that's telling me I need to do is go back to program detail. I purposely did not show you this page because this page has a naughty word in it and we're waiting to get it fixed. And a lot of you have heard me talk before about lost learning. And a lot of schools never shut down. And, you know, they were in person the whole time. How can they document a learning loss that wasn't there? What this has been changed to is, quick, what is it, Jeff? It's called lost instructional time.
Yep.
Yep. And in the lost instructional time, what they're asking you for is what do you plan to do, or what did you do with the lost instructional time? There's 2 parts to that question. The first one is they're asking you how you identified it, and then they're asking you what you did about it. The superintendent and deputy superintendent right now are working on some documents that we will put on the website when they're done to give you more guidance in how to complete these 2 questions. If If you have already submitted your application and with something in there, that's fine. We're not going to make you change it. But for those of you that just aren't sure and don't know, how you can prove this, the documentation they say should be out in the next week or so.
Yeah.
So going back to the technical aspect of it, it told me I didn't have anything in here. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to save the page. And then I'm going to go back to the submit button. And you see how it reset itself because it didn't accept my consistency check. I'm going to click it again. And then it says, yes, everything's fine. And it offers me a submit to OPI. Now, the submit to OPI button will only show up if the authorized rep does the consistency check. If you have someone that is just doing the data input, when they click consistency check, the message they'll get is, this has been forwarded to your LEP, who will then submit it to OPI. So you may see this or you may not see this. And then if I'm going to submit it to OPI, and that's done. And that's really all it takes. I don't think it's much different than what you did last year, with the exception now that you have to go in to each funding stream and do a budget. But besides that, it's pretty much just as the rest of the other e-grants are. So I'm going to do two things now. I'm going to open up for questions. For those of you that want to stay online so that you can work on your grant and ask me questions while you're doing it, I am going to keep this chat room open until 3 o'clock, and we can do that. So does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask?
So Mindy, this is Randy from Dillon again. I've got a question, and then I was hoping you could answer Gary Haverfield's question in the chat box. But my question is, this is kind of crazy. This all sounds great, and it is, but I have a full-time job, and this in and of itself is a full-time job. So we know we can, I hired an extra custodian, I hired a part-time secretary, stuff like that out of the old funds, and that was acceptable, et cetera. Is it possible, not saying I'm going to do it, but is it possible to hire help with this? And this is going to be ongoing for the next, at least 2 or 3 more years, I would assume. And so is that an acceptable use? And then again, I hope you can see Gary's question there, because I'm very curious about that reopening plan as well and how that plays a part.
Well, Jeff, do you want to give it a try?
Yeah, I actually think what you're saying, I think that probably would be allowable. I mean, you have to, again, connect it back to prevent, prepare for, or respond to. But if part of your response is you need more hands to help you kind of manage the ESSER process, or not just the ESSER process, but implementing any of the programs that you might put funding towards, or if it's helping you maintain the operation and continuity of service, because it allows you to allocate your time differently, then I think you can make the case for that. You just need to articulate that, that the reason you're doing it, it's related to COVID, and it's helping you kind of maintain operation continuity of service. Like,
Okay.
Yep.
And actually, in the permissible activities, it's in there saying that you can use it for developing and implementing processes and procedures and systems to improve what you're doing or putting together a plan. And then it also is addressed in, let's see. Oh, other activities that are necessary to maintain the operation and continuation and continue to employ existing staff.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know how other people are doing it. I work pretty hard myself. My clerk works really hard, and we are just overwhelmed with it. And so that all sounds great. And then I was curious about that reopening, Gary's question.
Yeah. So let me scroll down and read that, and then we're going to come back and hit face question too. So let's see, where did I lose Gary's question? Let me just get down there. Oh, yeah, Gary had asked, how does the reopening plan play into accessing the ESSER grants? I actually think it will play a larger part in ESSER 3 than it does in ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. Because specifically with the ESSER 3 dollars, local LEAs will be asked to submit in their application, and they do have to talk about what their reopening plan is. And really, even if, even say you didn't have a reopening plan, you stayed in operation the whole time, the federal government is wanting you to have a reopening plan should you need to close and open in the future. So I think if I'm reading that correctly, I think it'll play a bigger part in ESSER 3 allocations than it does in ESSER 1 or ESSER 2. Do you think any differently, Mindy?
Jeff, this is Gary Haberfield, and the last OPI meeting and Zoom meeting I had, we were told that in order to even access the ESSER 2 funds, we had to submit and get a reopening plan approved first. So
okay,
well,
I am. I will.
Hang on 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm real curious which meeting you're talking about you heard that from?
Last week, Ken Bailey held a meeting about ESSER funds, and that's what we were told.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, I will clarify that for you. I'm the new kid on the block, so I am still wading through all of this, but I will clarify that for you. I know because part of it is we're in the process of working on the state application for ESSER 3 funds, and I know it's prominent in ESSER 3. And so let me find out for you on ESSER 2. We'll clarify that for you. So.
And that was the struggle, Jeff. Thank you for looking that up, because that's the struggle Gary and I had. We never closed. So how are we reopening?
Right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So now and actually a lot of our schools were able to kind of stay open. And so, but the federal government wants you to be able to demonstrate that should you have to close, you've got a plan to reopen. So, but I'll clarify that specifically on ESSER 2. I know they're going to want that for certain in ESSER 3, all these different ESSERs gets confusing too, but we'll get clarity on that for y'all. So
I have a question. This is Drea O'Donnell from Shepherd. Part of that, we actually stayed open as well. And when we did so, we had plans put out last summer based off of the 1900 series policies. Can we use what we used last summer to send to our families and the 1900 policies to basically state that is our reopening plan?
I'm going to say, with what we know now, that would. The caveat is if some new legislation or directive came out that changes that, we would let you all know about that.
Yep. I agree, Mindy. I think that's correct as well. And I think you don't have to create a new reopening plan for those of you who did reopen. It is a good chance to sit back and for those of you who did a closing and then a reopening, it is a good chance to debrief that reopening plan and make any tweaks to it that you think would make it stronger moving forward. But if you have a reopening plan and you're satisfied with that reopening plan, I believe that is something you can use again. So, yeah, and part of it too is, yes, there's the legislation, and then there's also the Department of Ed's interpretation of that legislation. And a lot of time that's where we are struggling to get clarity. And so, but we will, as we get clarity, we'll pass that right on along to y'all. So.
To be real honest, right now, the guidance that Department of Ed did put out conflicts with what the law says.
Mhm.
And so that's some of the stuff we're trying to get clarity on.
Yep. Let's see.
Any other questions?
Let me just look and see.
Well, thank you all for attending. I will be posting the video of this on our webpage. And every time we have any additional documents, that's where we'll post stuff. And I am going to leave this room open till 3 o'clock, and I'll be sitting right here at the computer. So if you have any questions, just yell or send me a message. And Jeff, thank you for joining.
Yes. So we'll look forward to being back home and in person at the beginning of June. So.
All right, everybody. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you. Hey, Mindy, are you still on?
I am still here.
This is Randy again. If I could ask one more question, I'm sorry.
You
You
can
probably
ask
went
as
over
many
this.
as you want.
You probably went over this, but I'm just curious. On the sheet that has the estimated ESSER 1, 2, 3 allocations, et cetera, what is the special needs piece? So I have a number there. What am I supposed to match that number? I've never really found that or heard
Yeah,
that.
no, you don't need to match that number. That number came out of the this year's legislature asserting some control over how the money is spent.
Okay.
And basically if you have that money under the special needs funding stream, that money is supposed to go towards your students, either in SPED or minority populations or something like that.
Okay, so that is what I was getting at. So supposedly, let's say that number is 100. So I have to spend $100 addressing special needs.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Perfect. Thank you. And thank you so much for your time today.
Anytime, you guys, anytime. And I'm staying on.
Okay.
Hey, Mindy, this is Joanne in Colstrip. During the course of your presentation, which by the way was really good.
Thank you.
There were a bunch of little pop-ups that kept happening, and I see the last one I saw was from Ken Bailey regarding that question from earlier about the reopening plans. Just out of curiosity, do we get that information or because it just popped up and then it was gone before I had a chance to read it?
No, what you saw was my my email messages popping up.
Gotcha. Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, I hope
Sorry
it is
about that.
from Ken. No, that's fine. I hope it is something from Ken telling us, because if it is, I'll be posting it right away.
Okay, thanks a lot. I really do appreciate it. We'll have a lot of questions, I'm sure, but this is helpful.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Mindy, can you hear me? This is Diane, the district clerk from the ACT School.
Yes, how are you?
I'm well. The special needs money can we have a co-op that we belong to? Can we just forward this money to them?
Yes.
Yes,
you can.
Pardon?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And will we forward that in the same manner and coding that we do for our general fund special ed money that goes directly from us to them every year?
I do not know the answer, but I will find it out. And get
Okay,
back
thank
to
you.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I have a follow-up question on that.
Okay.
If we forward it to our special ed co-op, do they have to like put in the same kind of how they spent it and everything else and fill out the like reports of basically how they spend it? Are they, or is,
That needs to be done in e-grants. So if you do forward it to them, you'd either need to allow someone there to access your application and put it in there, or you guys will have to do that yourselves.
okay.
Sorry to make more work, but we're trying to make sure that we get the feds everything they ask for so we can keep as much money as we can.
Mindy, this is Randy again. I'm going to take advantage of you.
Go ahead.
So our summer academic or the learning loss that's supposed to be addressed. I thought I heard something about, we were thinking that was right now. Is that not till ESSER 3? Did I hear that right, or?
So in ESSER 2, learning loss is addressed as one of the allowable expenditures. ESSER 3 will mandate 20% be spent in that area.
So right now it's not 20%.
Correct. Right now it's not.
Okay. But it is an allowable thing. Okay. And then another thing, we are going to purchase some cameras with air sensors because air quality is, becoming a bigger issue. Also, we want to make sure kids aren't bunched up and things like that. Would that be an allowable expense?
If you wrote it up as that's how you're going to avoid recontamination and keep the air, free of germs and stuff.
Well, and also, making sure that our kids are not bunching up, and like, for example, in the morning, before school, they want to bunch up at the front door, that type of thing.
Yeah, that would be it. And that's one of those things you would document that.
Social distancing, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then of course, technology. I mean, I get all that. I just, okay. Just looking at my notes here. Okay, perfect. Thank you again so much for your time, Mindy.
Sure, anytime.
Mindy, this is Diane again.
Hi.
On the ESSER base here, the numbers they're giving us, then they have the district supplement. That for me, it's a little over $72,000. Is that ESSER 2 money? And we'll get more ESSER 3, or is this all there is?
Okay, so the money that you got for your base allotment and for the supplemental district allotment, that is all ESSER 2 money. Okay. There will be another allocation for ESSER 3 coming up in the next month or so.
Okay, so I need to focus on this chunk right here first and get it all set up. And then, because I'm the one that they're thinking about replacing doors and windows, major project, we have to get a plan together so that they can get it approved. We want to use the 3 money for that, right?
Well, ESSER 2 money is the one that's geared the most towards HVAC and ventilation. And that, and ESSER 3 is going to be a lot different, and it's going to be all about learning and modes of instruction. So if you're gonna do any capital projects or HVAC projects, take it out of 2.
Okay, so I will get my board chair working on a plan for sending in to submit for the doors and windows then.
Okay,
Because that's the only thing that we don't really have as far as the ESSER 2 money.
okay, okay.
All
And
right, thank you, dear.
sure. And, keep some other, keep a list going of projects that if you had money you could spend on and drop them in there at the last minute. And we can talk about them even if they're not in the application yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there coding for ESSER 3 funds yet?
No,
Because how could I use that to address learning loss for like the summer? We're having a big thing that would be perfect for ESSER 3, but how can we use it if we don't have it?
as soon as we can get ESSER 3 set up, we will let you know.
Okay. And I'll still be able to use it basically for something, even if it's after the date?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Mindy, Randy has a question again. Imagine that. Okay, if we had an employee who did our contract tracing and spent 20% of her time or his time doing that, can 20% of their salary come out of ESSER funds?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And the same thing would be true. I mean, like I said earlier, we did hire an extra custodian, an extra secretary to help with that. So it'd kind of be the same thing as that, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. I am turning off my screen share, but I am still here.
Mindy, you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, this is Gary Fisher, Superintendent of Broadview Schools. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. I'm trying to absorb all of this and then still wrap my head around everything here. I have a 3-part question.
Okay.
One, we contract our school nurse through Riverstone Health
Mm-hmm.
out of Billings,
Mm-hmm.
and she's here basically twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
And she spent a lot of time this year, obviously answering questions from our staff on COVID related questions. And she also did a PIR with our staff about COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then she did a lot of the contact tracing along with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so how much of that contract can I write off to Esser?